gon' tell you how it is, cause she's Rick the critic when she all up in your city. Oh, you best not forget it. Let you know if she like it, and if she get with it, let the whole world know and be the first to admit it. Let you know if it's good and if she dig it, cause she's Rick the critic, Rick the critic, Rick the critic, Rick the critic. She the first to admit it if she can't dig it, cause she's Rick.
Hi, I'm Rick the Critic and welcome. Today my guest is Askia Mahukil.
Muwakil.
Say it for me again.
Muwakil.
Muwakil. I get it, Muwakil. And today we're going to be talking about why people think the way they think, and we're going to go back in history, and we're going to have a good time, and it's going to be enlightening, it's going to be empowering, it's going to be a show that you will never forget. Askia, welcome.
Thank you.
I am so glad that you're here.
And I'm so glad you invited me.
We have talked about some things in the past. Listen, when we talk, I want to talk about our journey here. I want to talk about how we came here and why things are the way they are. We're seeing more and more dysfunction, in relationships. We're seeing it with our children. We're seeing it, in all different aspects. And I want to talk about why those things, why we do the things we do and what happened when we came over here on the ship, and just enlighten us, please.
I think that one thing that we have to look at with African Americans is a very unique situation. And it's never, that condition was so horrific. It's never happened in the history of mankind before. Now, in the history of mankind, you have always had countries that conquered other countries and, kept in captivity the people from that particular region until there was a rebellion and they fought themselves off and they gained independence. So this is naturally a occurrence that have happened through mankind. African Americans are completely different in the sense of you basically went for stealing children, because if you have to understand that it had to deal with productivity, and it had to deal with value. It had nothing to do with I'm conquering you for a particular reason. I'm going to take your mineral resources and then I'm going to leave. Well, what you did, you stole children, and they were a commodity. At a commodity, they had a price, and anytime that you're selling a product, you want the product that could have the longest time value. And this allows, you went for a youth market. You wouldn't steal anybody 35, 40 years old. Why? Because of the fact that you couldn't sell them at a high price at the auction block. So you went after 11 and 12 and 13, 14. This was prime property. This was a prime economy.
Yeah.
But I think that one thing that we don't think about in terms of that, the psychological impact that plays on a child. I have grandchildren, 13, 12, and 11. I couldn't imagine having a 12 or 13-year-old being accustomed to her family, her mother, the village where she comes from, the village or the community that she comes from, and all of a sudden being snatched and not knowing why. First of all, where's my mother? Where's my father? Where's my grandparents? Where's everything that I know? So, when I think in terms of the psychological impact, it's something that we really have to look at.
So now what you're saying is that when our ancestors came over, they were children, so they had some adults, because we're always under the notion that, it was all these adults on the slave ship and they were crammed up together and all that. We never think about the children that came.
No.
We always think adults. We never think about children. But that makes sense, because it would be easier to control.
Well, it's easier to control. The military doesn't go after 35, 40-year-old people to recruit them into the military.
Yes.
Why? Because you have a better soldier at 18 years old, 16, 18, 21 years old than you would at 35, 40 years old.
Yeah.
It's a better product.
Yeah.
A newer product, a younger product is a better product. And that's with anything. If you have an animal, you would rather a younger animal than compared to an older animal. And I'm just saying in terms of not equating this with animals. What I'm saying, when you're talking about a merchandise, you look at your merchandise in a certain area.
Yes.
So this thing, we have to look at it impacted us in a completely different way. Because first of all, I always think about the mindset. I tell people and viewers to put themselves in that condition of a child. The average African, and I don't say slave, because see, slavery was the condition. African people were put in a slave condition.
Yes.
The average length of the chains were 18 inches. 18 inches from each other. Now, another thing that we have to take in consideration is the child, the condition the child was in, the child not understanding who and why they were put in this position, not knowing the language that their persecutor were putting, they couldn't really communicate. They were put on a ship with hundreds of other children that were crying and mourning. Can you imagine being in an environment, because that ship ride took from 3 to 6 months. Can you imagine for 3 to 6 months not hearing laughter, not feeling laughter, no joy and fear? Can you imagine, it's one thing to go to Carnival Cruise Line and they say, well, we're going to take you on a cruise. It's another thing going on Carnival Cruise Line, said, we're going to take you on a cruise, but we're not going to tell you when we're coming back to port. The anxiety that would develop.
Yes.
If the slave master's plantation, after a 3 to 6 month ride, not knowing, it's like going to jail. Just say, I'm going to send you to jail, I ain't going to tell you when you're going to get out. Your mind can't adjust. Mental breakdown. The master's plantation was 1 square mile, 500 acres or so. That's all you saw the rest of your life was 1 square mile. If the master wanted the woman, he could just take the woman, beat the man in front of the woman, because showing that he's not her natural protector. See, when we think in terms of this condition, it wasn't that long. We say that was 200 years ago. Look, I'm in my mid-50s. I'm 3rd generation out of slavery.
Yeah.
My great-grandma Winnie said she was going to the next village with the medicine bag. She said she was captured. She said she went through her womanhood on the ship. She was bought by a German named Henry Kennebrew. His son name was Jacob, and his grandson name was Edwin. She said she was shelling the peas in the barn, and Edwin came on the bale of cotton and threw on the bale of cotton and raped her. She had a baby. The baby's name was Phil. The master didn't accept Phil or reject Phil, but he let Phil come in the big house. Phil messed with Sarah seamstress, Rena Mills the cook, and 12 other women. He had 49 children. My grandfather Julius was one of 49 children.
Ooh, that's a lot of children.
But my grandfather Julius was 1st generation out of slavery.
Yeah.
My mother's 2nd, which is 93. I'm 3rd. So any subconscious issues that might have impacted them 2 generations ago, I'm still trying to go through my own memory and all this dysfunction that I might have inside myself, trying to heal myself from that condition. But we love to say 200 years ago, but it's not that long ago.
You know what? You're absolutely right, because we were born in the 50s, and so they were still drinking out of fountains. And I mean, we didn't get that here, but we are 1st generation of not having to drink out of
if we're in the 50s, the Civil
know.
War was over in 1865. That's 95 years later. Look how many generations, how close those generations, only 2 generations before that condition took place. So that condition still impacts us in so many different ways.
Absolutely.
So we're trying to act like it's a normal situation. No, it's still, you know, we have to look at subconsciously how those patterns have developed on how we treated our families. You know, it's hard to love someone when you know someone could be stolen or someone could be sold at any particular time. It's hard to love someone when your woman is being raped in the barn and coming back, and when the baby is born, you don't know if it's your baby, the master's baby, or someone else's baby. So this contact of love that we have, this disparity between African-American men and African-American women, a lot of this resentment and animosity that we have, it's coming from a condition that we haven't really come to grips with because we think we're okay. We're not okay. The condition wasn't okay. And we're really going to have to spend some time and even having society come in and having our children become clinical psychologists and therapists to kind of help us, assist us.
Yes.
In trying to heal ourselves of all these dysfunctional things that we're doing. But we got to stop acting like we're normal.
We're okay,
We're
yeah. And even when you think of the Holocaust, they had the whole family there. So we are the only ones that have been just just stripped away from everything. Even in the Holocaust, even with the Russian slave, all of that, everybody was together. The mother and the father, and then once they got where they were going, there might have been a separation, but they all came in it together, and they were all still in one place. They were not taken,
what
away.
The grandparent can teach the grandchild the culture. You know, so if you found that during the Holocaust, you could still have Jewish grandparent teaching the young Jewish child still the culture. We weren't taught the culture. When growing up, we hated the word African, period. We hated that word. Colored, Negro, we'd have been everything. So the word being African was a very negative word. We watched Tarzan, we saw people, you know, we see this view of ourselves. We never could accept the wide nose, the big lips. We have a whole lot of conditioning. You know, one of our biggest products in the world is wearing somebody else's hair. You know, we spend billions of dollars wearing someone else's hair, concept of beauty, and our natural hair is not even considered valuable. So, you know, we can't say, well, it's just one of those things. No, it ain't. It's some psychological things that we have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And until you're willing to look at those particular things, then we can truly heal ourselves. And because of that, we have developed certain social economic groups in our community. You know, we have social mindsets that are completely different, but we say, you know, black and male through relationships is just black, male, female. Well, we got social conditioning. So tribes have developed from that. And we have to be able to explore it in every aspect of our being. And it's not turning around to hate someone. See, the things that we say, I'm supposed to hate other people. No, you're not supposed to hate. You're supposed to understand the conditioning.
Yes.
But you have to stop working on a simulation, but learn to be rooted in yourself and have branches that reach out to someone else. But just to assimilate, to be like someone else, and not accepting you for who you are, and growing strong roots in your culture, in your identity, but grow to be a tree that reaches out to other people of other nationalities and other cultures and appreciate them for who they are too. But America has to come to grips that we cannot keep on telling a lie. Tell the truth.
Yes.
And learn that how this impacts us in developing a really serious discussion and putting programs into the society that really deals with this. You see?
Hold that thought. We're going to go to a commercial break, and when we come back, I want to talk some more about why, you know what I'm saying, because that has a lot to do why we have so many different type of relationships. Be right back. Get your water. Come back. You don't want to miss it.
Plastic ones last longer.
Pork bellies close steady due to speculation that demand for bacon-related products.
Read me this one, Daddy.
Okay, honey. The less art kids get, the more it shows. Are yours getting enough? Art. Ask for more. AmericansForTheArts.org.
Things can get pretty ugly when you're bored. In an after-school program, you can find something way better to do.
Passing gas in the presence of others is not only inappropriate,
That is so foul.
it can be deadly. Passing gas releases a fog of carbon monoxide
Grandpa,
and other poisonous fumes that can contribute to asthma and pneumonia.
you're killing us over here.
Kids shouldn't be exposed to secondhand smoke. Don't pass gas, take it outside.
Mom,
Dad,
how long should I wait for you? Mom,
If I'm at soccer practice.
what if something happens? Will you come get me?
There's no reason not to have a plan in case of a terrorist attack.
Mom, if you're not home, should we go to the neighbor's house?
And some extremely good reasons why you should.
Can you tell me?
Talk to your family about what you would do in case of an emergency. For more information, go to www.ready.gov.
And we're back. If you missed the first part, I'm with Askia, and we're talking about relationships. We're talking about how we got here. And now listen, because it's just so much is running through my mind. I'm thinking something that you just said, when you said something about the master coming in and taking your wife away and letting the man know that you're not the protector, you can't do anything about this. And I'm thinking now, when we see men walk away from their children, walk away from their wives, you know what I'm saying, their families, and without any kind of circumstances or any kind of conscience, these things are pretty much inbred into them. I mean, we never think of it like that. We always say, well, how come you don't do this? How come you don't do that? But a lot of that comes from things that have happened.
It's conditioning. Like I said, I think a lot of times that we see in the society.
We're not excusing it now.
Yeah, we have this battle of African-American men and African-American women, and if he would be just a strong black man, then I would be happy. And I say, oh man, hell, what do you know about being a strong black woman? Do you understand that being argumentative doesn't mean you're strong? Yeah. What strength are you bringing to him? Yeah. I think when you're a strong individual, when you're able to accept both in you, your mother and your father. I can't be a strong black man without accepting my mother that's in me too. And that feminine nature, that had nothing to do with anything else, but I have two qualities in me. So I think that what we do is that we battle and we blame each other, but that would be a part of what your enemy would want you to do, is battle with each other, instead of coming to the realization that we both have issues, and those issues really have to be explored on how we treat each other. We argue too much, I say, when you love someone, you don't try to give them some poison. Because when you argue the next day, are you going to feel better or are you going to feel worse? Yeah. You see?
Yeah.
We have to come in, how do we have to have goals. When you say that 90% of African-American children, are they planned or is it just something that happened by mistake? How do you choose your person in your relationship? I always say, we have to have criteria to choose our people in our relationship. Like when I talk to young ones, they would, our generation, we used to use the word courting.
Yeah.
And I said, well, they don't know what courting is. I tell them like this. Then it's like when you meet somebody, it's like having a job. On a job, they have you fill out an application.
Yeah.
What previous work you did, previous experience, what you do in your last job. Your personal application will know where your mama from, how you was raised, why'd you break up with that last person. After the job application, they put you on probation. They do a background check and make you take a blood test. And then they send you through orientation and training, and later on they give you a benefit package.
Yeah.
But if you meet somebody and you give up benefits with no probation, no application, no orientation, you're going to get an unskilled worker, and you're going to have a hell wanted sign. So first of all, what are you choosing in your life?
Yeah.
And why are you choosing this person? But we said they look good, the sex was good, and they got a job, and we think that was the only criteria to let somebody come into your life. You educate your child, send them to college for 4 to 6 years, and let them marry some stone fool you don't have no background on, and let them be a part of your family. There has to be but that's culture.
Yes.
Culture means to cultivate, and it means to be able to wish the best for your family. We have 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, have the whole family over. But we never have cultural days when we talk about Grandma Winnie, Uncle George from Arkansas or Mississippi that brought your family together. Do a Black History Month, you can't even do a book report on your grandparents. Now that's a shame. But see, culture is not just being that you are part of people that were persecuted. Culture is part of developing and cultivating what you have. Because in the garden, you got two things growing all the time. You got flowers and you got weeds. And we're talking about the youth because they ain't been cultivated. They turn it into weeds.
Yeah. Now what we got to do, we talk about it. I mean, we talk about everything. We got to discuss everything. And now, what is your I mean, really, because somewhere, when I was in Israel, there were just, I mean, all these young Jewish people there, and the Jewish people actually pay for them to come over to Israel and to learn about who they are. You know, and I thought to myself, wow, it would be nice if we had money to send our children to Africa and learn about who they are. And I'm told, and next year I'll get a chance to go, but I'm told that people can look at you and tell, you know, where you come from. Just like, and that's pretty much like it is here. I mean, you could look at somebody and say, gosh, you look familiar. What's your last name? You know, I thought you was a Bailey, or, you know what I'm saying? So we do that, but we have got to take the time to stop and educate.
Well, we have to be able to understand that culture is everything. Culture means that you start cultivating, you start putting things into function. That, you know, you could go to Africa, but a lot of times they get lost there too.
Yeah.
We can find one aspect that we are African Americans, and that's our heritage, and it's very important that we have that connection. We have to embrace what is great in us. And we have to accept what we need to change in us too.
Yes.
So there's a total acceptance of the change that you have to be made, because there's so much writing. I mean, when you imagine, when you have we could even call it the educated African American. Sometimes I call it the Black Anglo-Saxons. That a lot of times when you start talking about Langston Hughes, you have no clue. You talk about Marcus Garvey, you have no clue. You know, we had an African American game show. We wouldn't have enough contestants to last for 3 weeks because no one wouldn't take the time to know Langston, Marcus Garvey, Du Bois. It's so much to the culture.
Yes,
absolutely. But see, a lot of times that we're scared to discuss things. There's a whole lot of reasons why we don't discuss and want to look back in our history. You know, a lot of it is.
Why?
Well, I mean, we could be as easy as this. You know, a lot of times African Americans start talking about, I want to start history. But when you start talking about African history, you might have to go back to Egypt. But in religion, we are taught that Egypt was a bad place. You see?
Yes, yeah.
So what happens is that we put limitations on how far we're getting ready to go, because religion tells us not to look at it from that aspect, because this is the truth, the word, and the light, and don't look at this other aspect of it. And we have to learn to accept, and even anything that I think that to become free, anything that the person that have tried to conquer you, you have to question anything that he gave you, no matter what it is. Yeah. You see? And that allows you to be free. But you have to be able to explore, look, examine, question.
And that's biblical.
Well, you have to do that.
Yeah, it's biblical. I know that when I was in Israel, and I wanted to, because Egypt was just right next door, and I remember them saying, no, you know, it's a lot going on there, and if you go over there, you can. I'm thinking, are you kidding? I travel by myself all the time. What could happen? But they always throw up those barriers. I remember when I was young traveling by myself, I remember them saying, you can't do that, you gotta, and it's like, yes, I can. So there's a lot of things that we can do, and there's a lot of knowledge. It's a great big world out there, and I think that, like you said earlier, you know, we buy $60,000 cars, you know, and never been out of the country.
Yeah.
You know,
you have to change. I mean, like I said, one thing, I've always been a student of our history, and there's just so much greatness. But then I can look at other people in a different light too. But I could accept me, and it doesn't mean I have to hate you. See, because it don't mean that I'm anti you because I'm pro me. Yeah. You see, and we have to throw that. If we say someone from a Jewish background, if they're very caught into their Jewish culture, we don't use the word militant, revolutionary, you know, radical. No, you're just accepting and embracing all that culture has to give.
Yes.
But when it comes to us, that we learn the culture, we have these other stigma put on us, militant. No, it's just accepting who I am.
Who we are.
Because I think it's so important because of the youth, you know, because we have to understand that we have to give this information to the youth. Because we have to understand that youth is the age group that always makes changes. If we look at the 60s movement, Dr. King was 26, Malcolm was 27, H. Rap Brown was 22, Huey P. Newton was 21, Angela Davis was 18, Fred Hampton was 19, Stokely Carmichael was 19 years old. We have to look at the whole movement. If we look at the hippie movement in the 60s, it was a hippie. It wasn't the 35, 40-year-olds making the revolution and changing American society. It was Andy Hoffman. All these great young people from every culture made America change. But what happened is that America could control dumbing down the youth, and we give them toys that we don't really let them understand that they can make the changes. And so it's important for any culture to always protect their youth and not blame their youth, because anytime you blame your youth for their condition is because you were a neglected parent. We become a neglected generation because we don't protect our youth, cultivate our youth, and we allow them to be where they are now.
Now listen, can I get you, because you know what, all of this, that what we're talking about, we've discussed it and discussed it. I would love for us to come together and have a forum where you would come and others come and talk to our youth. You know, I'd like to put some information out and start to bring them in, because this information is invaluable. We, you know, sometimes just knowing a little bit more about yourself can make you feel a little bit better about yourself. Because I'm kind of getting the feeling that when we see, when we look at our children, they don't really have a lot of good feelings about who they are. So can we get together on this? Can we come together and put a forum together and invite our youth and the parents of the youth and come together and do something? Because I'm really, you know what, we do a lot of talking. I would really like to resolve this.
Yeah, I think that when we think about youth, we have to talk about parents.
Yeah.
Because right now we're talking about the average grandparent in our community now is 39 years of age.
Or younger.
So when Big Mama is 39, we in trouble. when Big Mama is 39, we're in trouble. So these are some issues that we really have to explore. We're going to have to put the time together. We're going to have to put the different forms. And no one's going to come there with one answer.
Okay.
All right.
Listen, we're running out of time, but you will come back again?
Yes.
And we will, you promise me we will put that forum on together?
We're ready for it.
Absolutely. Listen, thank you for allowing us to come into your home. This is Askia. We've had a wonderful time with you. I hope you're walking away with a lot of valuable information. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you.
The critic, when she come into your place, so you best not forget it. She gon' tell you how it is, cause she's Rick the critic. When she all up in your city, oh, you best not forget it. Let you know if she like it, and if she get with it. Let the whole world know and be the first to admit it. Let you know if it's good and if she dig it, cause she's Rick the critic. Rick the critic, Rick the critic, Rick the critic. She the first to admit it if she can't dig it, cause she's Rick the critic, 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 Rick the critic. Rick the critic, when she come into your place, so you best not forget it. She gon' tell you how it is, cause she's Rick the critic. When she all up in your city, oh, you best not forget it. Let you know if she like it, and if she get with it, let the whole